We have spent hours going through the videos sent to us from Charleston County Sheriff on the death of Jamal Sutherland.
Like we mentioned earlier, Sutherland died at the Charleston County Jail back in January following an arrest at the Palmetto Lowcountry Behavioral Health Center. The solicitor says he was being taken out of his cell to go to a bond hearing, but died while being subdued. We have some of that video for you right now showing the moments leading up to his death.
Raphael James breaks down some of that body cam footage. We do want to warn you, though, it is disturbing.
Okay, it bears repeating that what you're about to see is troubling. It is disturbing. It is officers getting ready to go into the cell of Jamal Sutherland.
Crack the door. Get down, Sutherland! Get down, Sutherland!
Get back, prisoner. Get down. Something is fired from a taser, it seems. You see Sutherland hit the ground.
Turn on your stomach! Turn on your stomach! Have him call out. Hey, you're gonna get another one! Come to the door! Slide to the door! Slide to the door! Come here! Come here!
She's asking him to come here.
All right, slide! I got it. Slide! Keep sliding! Keep
At this
sliding.
point, he's still on the ground.
Keep sliding! Keep sliding! Come on, Sutherland! Keep going! Keep coming!
Keep coming, it sounds like they're saying.
Keep sliding!
Keep sliding.
No, stay on and slide.
Keep
Stay
sliding.
on and slide.
He's been hit once with the taser.
Come on out!
Looks like this
Hey, turn over on your stomach!
laser point.
Turn over on your stomach! Turn on your stomach! Turn on your stomach! What?
Turn onto your stomach. His hands are behind his back at this point.
Give him handcuffs.
Doors open more. One walks in.
Stop.
His hands are behind his back.
Loosen up. Officer. Hey.
Officer goes to his head, takes him to the ground, and now he's apparently being hit with tasers. There's a stun gun or a drive device into his thigh right about there. He says, "I can't breathe." There seems to be a knee on his back there. And you just heard him say he can't breathe. There are hours of footage that we are combing through and trying to get prepared for air. We will bring that to you at a later time. In the newsroom, I'm Raphael James. Back to you.
Again, all of that video was released just before 11 o'clock last night, hours of video. Ninth Circuit Solicitor Scarlett Wilson says her investigation, based on a report from the State Law Enforcement Division, found Sutherland became unresponsive and died after Charleston County deputies worked to forcibly remove him from his jail cell. They were trying to take him to a bond hearing for a misdemeanor assault charge. According to the Charleston County Coroner's Office, a forensic autopsy shows the cause of death as, quote, excited state with adverse pharmacotherapeutic effect during subdual process. The manner of death is currently undetermined.
So that I want people's children not to die, not to be punished because they're mentally ill. It's a part of our society, and we need to get it right.
He wasn't even in jail long enough to make a phone call. Just 12 hours after being arrested, Jamal Sutherland died behind bars at the Charleston County Jail. His parents say he didn't have a prior record and was being treated for his mental illness when he was arrested. Nick Reagan reports the family never even knew he had been taken from a mental health facility to jail.
He was what I would call my baby. I had a spiritual relationship with him. Jamal loved his family.
Jamal Sutherland's parents recall hearing the news that their son had died while in custody at the Al Cannon Detention Center on January 5th. He had only been booked in 12 hours earlier.
I was in shock because he was not where we took him at in the first place. We thought that he was still at the behavioral health center.
Jamal had a long documented history of bipolar schizophrenia. On New Year's Eve, he had an episode, said he was hearing voices, and was rushed to the Palmetto Behavioral Health Facility.
He was where he needed to be, getting the help he needed. Obviously something occurred, right? He was booked in on simple assault, so clearly there was an incident at the mental health facility. But that's where he needed to be.
Pepper says normally officers are required to send mentally ill inmates to treatment facilities instead of jail. He says there are a lot of questions that need to be answered.
One thing we do know for a fact is that while under the custody, care, and control of the detention center, he was tased. For what reason, we don't know. How soon did he die thereafter? We don't know.
Jamal's family and friends say we need to address how people with mental illnesses are treated.
I think that there needs to be laws so that when the mentally ill can't speak for themselves, first of all, you notify his parents.
In North Charleston, Nick Reagan, Live 5 News.
State law enforcement agents are actively investigating, and 2 deputies have been placed on paid administrative leave following Jamal's death. Right now at 6, we are learning the Charleston County Sheriff's Office monitored some local activists and at least one state lawmaker on social media. Now, this comes in connection with the death of Jamal Sutherland, who was tased 9 times and died on the floor of the jail in the Charleston County area back in January.
That's according to newly released emails obtained by Live 5 Investigates. Our Rob Way tells us why they say this happened and how some are now calling for answers.
No justice! No peace!
Before protesters took to the streets earlier this year, we're now learning several of them, along with a state lawmaker, were being watched online.
It was pretty unfair to criminalize me for defending a victim of police violence.
This email, which we obtained through a Freedom of Information request, shows an analyst with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office sending command staff screenshots of a number of social media posts demanding justice for Jamal Sutherland. Video released a day after that email was sent shows Sutherland being tased and pepper sprayed inside the jail before his death. 3 posts from State Representative Wendell Gilliard were included among the social media they say they were actively monitoring. He now wants answers from Sheriff Kristen Graziano.
I feel just somewhat embarrassed at the fact that she would even look in this direction for what? I feel like a common criminal if I had to look through her eyes. And I think it's wrong. She used the wrong approach. I think it's unprofessional. And she just has some explaining to do.
Sheriff's Office spokesperson Roger Antonio says the analyst who sent the email is assigned to the Seahawk Operations Center and is responsible for informing them of any intelligence or information that may forecast a potential public safety concern in the community, regardless of whether they're the agency that is directly involved.
It's just appalling that she would use this type of tactics to come after the wrong people, or where it is blatant the people that she should be putting emphasis on. As a threat to the community or whatever. She should be putting that on her officers. She needs to look in-house.
I would hope the sheriff would realize that the activists in the community just want justice. We don't want to be victim of these types of surveillance activities. We don't want to be labeled a security threat to our community because we speak out and we defend people that have been victims of violence from law enforcement.
Sheriff Graziano declined an interview today, referring questions instead to the Seahawk Interagency Operations Center. They have not gotten back to us. In Charleston County, Rob Way, Live 5 News.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Bill Walsh. We want to give you that first alert to what's going on with Hurricane Elsa. We do have tropical storm warnings now in effect for the entire South Carolina coast. So we're going to continue to take a look at that. Also, what we can expect as we go hour by hour through tomorrow evening, tomorrow night into early Thursday. So let me go ahead and show you what the storm is doing right now. And again, you can see as we take a look at Elsa, now a hurricane. We gave you the first alert that it would be a hurricane at 7:30. That was upgraded at about 7:30. There's the satellite, and again, you can see it pretty clear, bringing a lot of rain over to central Florida, and you can see on that shot as well, a lot of rain across central, south, and north Florida. So we're watching that very carefully. As we zoom on in there, you can see the numbers. Again, the storm right now, 75-mile-an-hour storm, 997 on the pressure, moving north at 14. The latest update with this track is that it is a little bit faster. It does make landfall down here near Cedar Key, Florida, as about a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane. Again, then it will weaken to a strong tropical storm very quickly once it moves over land and loses that energy source of the warm tropical water, which is the high-octane fuel for tropical systems. Then it's going to continue to move up the coast by tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, as a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm down here in southeast Georgia. And the change to this evening, you can see Thursday in the morning, this point was about here during the earlier broadcast. Now it is up right into central South Carolina. And that's moving by a little bit quicker, but also it maintains its tropical storm strength as we make our way through the entire day tomorrow. As we look at the current warning and watch posture, what was a watch is now a warning, tropical storm warning extending really from Little River Inlet, the North Carolina border, all the way down the coast. And that, of course, will continue until the storm passes. That means tropical storm conditions, winds above 39 miles an hour expected in the next 24 hours. Here's how it looks on the future tracker. Again, about lunchtime tomorrow, we'll start to see some rain bands starting to move into Charleston and throughout the southeast South Carolina. The heaviest stuff will still be down to the south. Then as we head for, say, dinner time on Wednesday, notice those heavier bands start to work along the Savannah River and on into southeast South Carolina, with the heaviest stuff right down along I-95 there, just right there along Brunswick, Georgia. And then as we make our way through tomorrow night, about 24 hours from now, that's when we're going to start to see some of the heavier rain bands. Could see an isolated tornado, maybe some flooding as the storm continues to push on through. That's 11 o'clock tomorrow night, almost 24 hours from now. We're on Facebook here too somehow. But anyway, so we'll go to the wall here real quick, and this is that warning area right there. And it's not a big warning area, and we've cleared that out of the Isle of Palms, as Joey mentioned. But that's still in effect though for this area right there in 17 North, around really Park West, Carolina Park, back over to Wando. There's 41. This is where Jack's Cosmic Dogs is down there. But again, as you look back along 17, this is the area that we're watching, and it does show us there's quite a bit of rotation there. And this may or may not be even coming down to the surface. A lot of times these are wrapped around rain. We call them rain-wrapped storms. They could be an EF0. These aren't the big long-track storms you see out west, the big EF4 or 5s, the big wedge type of tornadoes. These are small spin-ups. Look at how fast it just spins up, and it came in right off the ocean, right there from the ocean, and probably as a water spout, and it may, because of the friction, is now going to encounter trees, it's going to encounter houses and buildings. That could interrupt that circulation at the low levels, but it looks like it is showing some pretty good rotation right there as we see it moving on up in toward that Carolina Park area, this part of Mount Pleasant. So again, that warning went to what, 2:50 is it?
Right till 3 o'clock.
Right to 3 o'clock. There's Joey Sovine here joining me as well. Look at these rainfall totals now. We're talking about almost 8 inches of rain over down to parts of Colleton County, including
8 inches of rain?
8 inches in
Wow.
our rainfall totals there from our Doppler estimates. 6+ in parts of northern Colleton County, even 4 over parts of Dorchester County, and 1 to 2 inches over Charleston and Berkeley County. So bottom line, a lot of rain obviously caused some damage, which we're going to continue to bring you team coverage on. But that just shows you what these slow-moving systems can do.
Thank you, Bill. You ready for a vivid picture? Watch this. That rain was enough, and as you know, to sweep part of the street, the roadway, away. This is in Hendersonville in Colleton County.
Nick Reagan, as you see right now, is literally in the middle of it all. Nick, that road is going to be closed for some time, and looking at your video there, we can understand why.
Bill, and take a look at just how much water is still flowing through this pipe. The rain has stopped, but still a ton of water coming through the pipe and just destroying this roadway. You can see how much of it has been washed away downstream. Now, take a look at the video from earlier today. This is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Thankfully, no one was hurt when the car fell into this pit. A neighbor was watching the whole thing and told me that the driver had pulled off to the side of the road but got stuck. He says the driver and a passenger got out, but it was too late for the Honda Civic. The ground gave way and it tumbled into this rubble. It took several hours to get the car out. That same neighbor who was watching all this told me that there's normally water on this road when it rains, but it's just that usually there's a road underneath that water. The South Carolina Highway Patrol says that this story could have turned out a whole lot differently, and they praise the driver for not driving through that dangerous water.
Things happen, things break, and it's something that happens all the time, and it's kind of something that's probably going to continue to happen, unfortunately. So just be smart and pay attention and make sure you turn around if you can, or use alternate routes when you see water on the roadways.
Now, DOT is working to assess all the damage. They're going to have to see how much of the road is damaged up and down from this incident. I can tell you that as I was getting into the pit here, I could hear chunks of rubble still falling off of the main road. So they definitely have their work cut out for them. But Bill,
Patrol spokesperson, I think, just got here. So we're actually about to talk to him in a few minutes here. So we're going to keep you updated as soon as we get that information. And we'll make sure to keep everyone updated on Live 5 News, both on Facebook and on...
And Summer, just for an understanding, who are we about to listen to here?
Yeah, this is Nick Pye. He's a state trooper, so we're going to have him in just a few minutes here. I know he's preparing to talk to us here, so yes.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that. We'll stay live. So, Summer, if you just keep your phone shot, we won't take it, but we'll keep that shot live when he's ready to speak. We'll definitely be taking that live. Thank you so much for that. And again, you are taking a live look out on I-26. Summer's there on the westbound side, but you can see across there where all of those cars caught fire this morning. Some of the video dramatic. Now let me show you a map, one of our traffic maps from above, to get you a little perspective of what you're looking at. It's about a mile back from the next in exit where this is. Let me mute that mic there. I know the audio's hard. We're obviously on a busy road here, so the audio might be a little tough to hear sometimes. But again, you're taking a look from above on this map picture here. And you can see it's about a mile back from Nexton Parkway is where this accident is, obviously affecting traffic for miles with all lanes closed eastbound side. Summer is working on setting up that shot right now, so we'll pull that up when we can get it. She is about to interview one of the spokespeople for Highway Patrol. I'll show you that shot too. You can see we're about to talk with him and get that information. Summer, again, working all morning long to get us this information. What we know right now, all I-26 eastbound lanes closed near Nexton Parkway in Berkeley County. We do not yet know the extent of any injuries or the condition of those who were in the vehicles. It looks like we're about to take this live. Again, this is Highway Patrol giving us an update.
Where we're at and all that whenever y'all are ready.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yep.
Almost done.
Yeah, y'all take y'all's time. We're not going anywhere anytime soon.
One more second. They're setting everything up. As you can see, they're about to answer all of our reporters out there. They're going to be answering those questions, getting us the very latest about what happened early this morning. And again, the scene behind him is the eastbound side. On the opposite side of the highway is the eastbound side, which is closed about a mile from Nexton.
Trooper Nick Pye talks about the vehicle fires on I-26 eastbound at mile marker 190.
And if you're just joining us, this is a live picture we are getting from I-26. Oh, it looks like we're about to get some information. Let's listen into Highway Patrol.
All right, everybody good?
Am I ready?
All right, so just starting by, what do we know at this point? All right, so first off, we're on I-26, just east of the 194, closer to the 195. We have a pretty major collision on the eastbound side. It is involving 9 vehicles, multiple tractor trailers. Multiple vehicles did catch on fire as a result of that collision. At this time, all lanes eastbound at the 194 are blocked, and a time frame to open those back up is not available at this time. As a result of the collision, one person was transported to the hospital, and we do have another collision that is just east of here involving a box truck that's overturned that is also being worked by troopers. And at this time, we do have a detour that's set in place. Vehicles are being exited at the 194. They can either go to the right and take 78, which looks like most people are doing that, or they can take a left and go to 176. So either way.
I mean, this is just a mess.
We're following this developing story out of Colleton County tonight, where a mother and her son were found shot to death.
The Colleton County Sheriff's Office says 52-year-old Margaret and 22-year-old Paul Murdoch were killed last night at a home in the Islandton area of the county.
We have team coverage tonight out of Colleton County. Katie Cameron talked with folks in town about the shooting, but first to Lisa Wiseman. Lisa, what do we know about the murders so far?
So basically that it's just ongoing right now, Bill. Deputies here at the Colleton County Sheriff's Office, they first got that 911 call at about 10 o'clock last night. They arrived to find the Murdochs, Margaret and Paul, had been murdered, found inside of a building on their property there. Now, this is a pretty well-known family here in the Lowcountry area. Of course, the Murdoch family, several of them, several family members have served as solicitor for the area over the past decades. So last night, their bodies were found inside of a property along Moselle Road. It's sort of like a compound there with a couple of different driveways. Again, the Murdochs found inside of a building. Logan Reichstad joining me right now, and you have more information about that property.
And we've got a new view from the sky of this property as well. It's a really large property with a number of different outbuildings, and now we can show, in just a moment, we'll show some video of it from the air. But here's a little bit of what we know so far. There were a number of buildings involved here, and it was really a flurry of activity when I got to the scene. You'd see 1, 2, 3 vehicles, all unmarked, coming into the scene and then leaving or pulling into another driveway as part of their investigation. The video you're seeing now is that drone video of the property showing the different buildings, but really most of the activity, the investigation, seemed to be focused around one of the buildings that was a little bit closer to the road. The video showing crews examining the property as their investigation into this double homicide continues. Now, at this hour, we still don't know if there are any suspects on the loose or if any arrests have been made, but we do know, according to officials, that there is no ongoing threat to the community at this point, Lisa.
All right, and there is a forensic autopsy happening on those bodies in just a couple of days. The county coroner told me that is set for Thursday. Our colleague Katie Cameron, also here in Colleton County, she had the chance to speak with locals about the news, about what they had heard. Katie?
Lisa, as law enforcement continues their investigation over there at the scene, folks across Colleton and Hampton County say they're following what they're calling a shocking story. Now, I spoke with folks all over the area who say they are just saddened and heartbroken by the news of Paul and Margaret's death. Now, some folks who knew the family well didn't want to go on camera, but they tell me they are just heartbroken. Others say even though they don't know the Murdochs personally, they'll be thinking of the family.
It's awful, you know, like you don't expect to get shot on your own property, especially like private land. You go out for a good day and then get a call later that your family's dead. It's just awful.
I send my best wishes out to everyone that been involved.
The law firm associated with the family posted earlier on Facebook thanking the community for their thoughts and calls and condolences. Back to you.
Thanks, Katie. And the younger of those two victims, Paul Murdaugh, at 22 years old, he was actually involved in a criminal case. There were criminal charges pending against him related to a deadly boat crash that happened several years ago. The Attorney General's office said today that they are indeed dropping those charges. Live for you right now in Colleton County, Lisa Wiseman, Live 5 News.
Lisa, thank you. You can follow the latest in this murder case by downloading our Live 5 News app.
That app is free in your app store, and you can also check out the latest at live5news.com.
The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division says they're investigating a shooting in Hampton County with ties to a prominent Lowcountry family that lost a mother and son to a shooting several months ago. SLED's public information officer says the person shot was Alex Murdaugh, the father and husband of Paul and Margaret Murdaugh. Paul and Margaret were found shot to death on their Colleton County hunting property back in June. The Murdaugh's family lawyer says he spoke with members of the family. He says they told him Alex was conscious, alert, and talking. The lawyer says Alex was shot in the head while changing a tire Saturday afternoon and was airlifted to MUSC in Charleston. In a statement, a spokesperson for the family says, quote, "The Murdaugh family has suffered through more than any one family could ever imagine. We expect Alex to recover and ask for your privacy while he recovers." This is a developing story. We'll update you on air and online as we learn more.
Just into our newsroom, a man has been arrested in connection with the shooting involving Alex Murdaugh in Hampton County. Deputies say Murdaugh was shot on the side of the road on September 4th. 61-year-old Curtis Smith facing multiple charges tonight, including assisted suicide and insurance fraud. The state law enforcement division says Alex Murdaugh gave Smith a gun and told him to shoot him that day. SLED agents say Murdaugh admitted to having Smith shoot him so his son can collect a life insurance policy valued at $10 million.
Breaking news.
That breaking news out of Hampton County, another investigation has now been opened into the Murdaugh family.
The state law enforcement division is now investigating the death of the Murdaugh family's former housekeeper.
Lisa Wiseman has been following this ever-changing news. Lisa, the housekeeper died 3 years ago.
Gloria Satterfield, that was her name. She died in Hampton County back in February of 2018, and we just learned that state police will investigate her death after a request from the Hampton County coroner. A wrongful death lawsuit that was already filed, but just today, Satterfield's estate sued, saying they didn't get any money. In that settlement, it says that Satterfield died as a result of injuries from a trip and fall. The Hampton County coroner says her death was not reported to the coroner at the time, and an autopsy was never done. She also says Satterfield's death certificate was ruled natural, which she says just doesn't match up to her injuries. SLED is now investigating her death as well as the handling of her estate. Bill, Ann?
This break.
Live 5 News starts now with breaking news.
Breaking right now at noon, Alex Murdaugh behind bars down in Florida on charges of misappropriating funds. The state law enforcement division has charged him with 2 felony counts of obtaining property by false pretenses. They say this is connected to the wrongful death settlement for the family's longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. Agents with SLED, as well as the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, took Murdaugh into custody this morning after his release from a rehab center in Orlando. Murdaugh was booked into the Orange County Jail, where he will be held until he receives an extradition hearing. If extradition is granted or waived, he will be brought back here to South Carolina for a bond hearing. Now, these new charges come as the man accused of shooting Murdaugh says he didn't do it, and in fact, he claims he was set up. Curtis Smith says Murdaugh called him on September the 4th, needing his help, and asked him to meet him on a rural road in Hampton County. Smith says when he arrived, Murdaugh was holding a gun.
He's down there like this. He said, "Yeah, you got to take care of this." I said, "Well, I can't do it." And he turned his head. I just grabbed his arm, put it behind his head, took the gun from him.
Smith claims during that struggle, the gun went off. Then he claims he got rid of the weapon and went home. Murdaugh claims he's been addicted to opioids for 20 years, and he says Smith was his drug dealer. Smith says that's not true. He denies that charge.
News.
Right now at 7, the new coroner of Williamsburg County says she doesn't know what happened to decades worth of death records, and she says she has no clue where the previous coroner was keeping bodies.
Rob Way uncovered this all and tells us how she, along with other officials, are questioning if records were even kept.
For families or police looking for death records in Williamsburg County, they may be out of luck. I know because I tried. I was working on another story and requested some of these death records, and the county's coroner, Ivory Henryhan, told me she has no death records from before January.
Do you have any idea where these records are?
I have no earthly idea. I have no idea. I can tell you where the records are from January 1st, 2021, but I have no idea where any records are prior to then.
Were records even kept, do you think?
I don't know. I would hope so.
Henryhan was sworn in as the county's new coroner at the beginning of this year. She replaced Harrison McKnight, who was coroner for more than 40 years and chose not to run for re-election. His deputy coroner did run, though, and lost to Henryhan in the election last fall.
I personally reached out to the coroner when I won the election, about a few days after the election, and my response from that coroner was, you have the knowledge so you can figure it out.
Williamsburg County Supervisor Dr. Tiffany Wright says she's always respected McKnight and is a little surprised Henryhan has not been given the records. She says, though, since coroners are elected, there's nothing the county can do.
I'm hopeful that our previous coroner did do his due diligence in keeping up with the records, and maybe I'm hoping it's just a matter of a mistake that was made. But obviously, if not, then at that point, our current coroner, Ms. Henryhan, will have to take whatever action she has to take.
It's not the only problem Henryhan ran into. When she was sworn in, she says she didn't have a physical coroner's office or even coolers to store corpses.
You weren't even sure where he was keeping the bodies before you took office?
I have no clue. I have no clue.
Right now, the Williamsburg County Sheriff's Office has given her a temporary place to work, a change of scene from the previous coroner.
They had a building that was adjacent, I believe it was on 52, that was on the side of a car mechanic shop, and that was considered the building where the coroner was. But as I stated earlier, we've made some big changes. When she got in office, she required additional items, more so than what the previous did, and we were able to help her with that.
You know, I started files. I started coroner reports for every case. Every case that I've had has a file number, easy access. So if a family wants to come in and discuss a case, I can go back into my files and pull that folder.
I reached out to the previous coroner, who told me a week ago he had some records and was going to reach out to Coroner Henryhan that day. As of this morning, though, she says he called but has not handed anything over.
We were hearing from Mrs. Henryhan. She said a number of the records are missing, that she wasn't able to get the records from when you were coroner in terms of death records. Do you have any response to those accusations?
You're seeing his direct response to my question on the screen, telling me she has some records, but not all. It's a situation the president of the South Carolina Coroners Association says she has never seen before.
Every coroner does things a little bit differently, but they should be handed over from one coroner to the other because, you know, Ms. Henryhan would not have access to any previous death prior to January. So if law enforcement needs that information or families needing that information and she doesn't have access to that, makes it very difficult for her.
Henryhan says she has no animosity towards her predecessor, but needs access to the death records. Her next step may be calling in the governor to help get them. In Williamsburg County, I'm Rob Way.
If you're a family in Williamsburg County who has not been able to get death records, we want to hear from you. Email Rob and our investigative team at the email address you see right there on your screen.